Yeah. So to me, that was a lot.
Call the meeting back to order. Before the pledge, town clerk has advised that this should be read at each meeting, so. In accordance with the open meeting law, the board states for the record that this meeting is being recorded by NORCAM and may be recorded by other local media. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome all our guests this evening, and those who are watching on cable, to our board. This is another new year, and I look forward to leading the board to accomplish what we set out on our strategic plan and our goals, and to deal with all of the issues that come before us. And I'm looking for input on how we may make some changes to work more effectively and efficiently. So, and I started by sending out the previous liaison assignments, looking for some feedback so we can get that squared away as soon as possible. I appreciate some input, you know, before I just say, okay, this is what it's going to be. If you have some changes you want to make, let me know. You can do it by phone, you can do it by email, whatever. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Okay, so we have a proclamation, Older Americans Month.
I talked about
We have a motion.
Mr., do you want me to read it? Do you want me to read
If
it?
you'd like to, do you have a copy of it? I have here if you
Yes,
don't.
I do.
Okay.
So, Older Americans Month 2016, a proclamation. Whereas the town of North Reading includes a community of older Americans who deserve recognition for their contributions to our nation. And whereas the town of North Reading recognizes that older adults are trailblazers, advocating for themselves, their peers, and their communities, paving the way for future generations. And whereas the town of North Reading is committed to raising awareness about issues facing older Americans and helping all individuals to thrive in communities of their choice for as long as possible. And whereas we appreciate the value of inclusion and support in helping older adults successfully contribute to and benefit from their communities. And whereas our community can provide opportunities to enrich the lives of individuals of all ages by promoting and engaging in activity, wellness, and social involvement, emphasizing home and community-based services that support independent living, ensuring community members can benefit from the contributions and experience of older adults. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Selectmen of the Town of North Reading, do hereby proclaim May 2016 to be Older Americans Month. We urge every resident to take time this month to acknowledge older adults and the people who serve them as powerful and vital individuals who greatly contribute to our community. By dated this 9th day of May 2016.
Dan, we have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to proclaim the month of May 2016 as Older Americans Month and to sign the proclamation.
Second.
Second by Mr. Yule.
No,
Oh,
Steve.
Mr. O'Leary.
He really jumped down there.
I have to watch your lips.
Still quick.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay. And the next item on our agenda is to sign the town meeting warrant. Mr. Gilberto, I take it there are no changes from...
So the board should have seen that the warrant was placed in the Dropbox folder on Friday night. The only change that we did was to adjust it to reflect the election of board officers that took place on Thursday evening. And so that correction has been made. Otherwise, it is as was posted in that Dropbox folder for tonight's meeting. Just for the board's edification, the intention is to sign the warrant this evening, ask the constable to post it accordingly, and then between now and Friday, we will finalize preparations for the version with the descriptions and the recommendations that will be mailed to households, and it will be delivered prior to the
What's the
requirement
date
by
on
bylaw.
when that has to go to press?
We need to have it picked up no later than noontime on Friday.
That's right.
That's when we've arranged for them to come pick it up.
So we're going to vote our recommendations this evening on the
Correct.
agenda.
And then we'll factor them into it, put the descriptions in.
I'll entertain a motion. Smith-Pelly?
Do you want me to read it? Just
The entire warrant?
Just kidding. Mr. Chairman, I move to sign the June 2016 town meeting warrant.
Second.
Second by Mr. O'Leary.
Well, Mr. Yule was there.
That was Mr. Yule.
Got it.
Two of you sound the same. I'm sorry.
I know.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Where's John? Oh.
Cut his mustache, too, I mean.
Yeah, right.
I have to just watch.
We have to all sign this, right?
God, how are you? Good.
Is this it?
Yo.
Sorry.
That's me, John, right here. Right. Thank you, sir.
I'm going to comment on, we'll get to signing the housing agreement.
Okay, do it then.
No, it stays there.
Here you go, John. Thank you. Next item is, we have minutes of April 25th, regular session and executive session.
Mr.
Manapelli.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the April 25th, 2016 regular session minutes as written.
Second.
Second by Mr. O'Leary. Mr. Yule.
Yeah, during that meeting, I had brought up also that the funds to achieve the complete streets, I mentioned that Chapter 90 funds can do the same thing. So that wasn't noted, and I want that to be
I'm not
noted.
sure I followed, Jeff.
Let me find the paragraph first.
Can you take us to,
If I can find it. Came too fast on me. It's on the 425 minutes, we were talking about the complete streets, that portion there, that paragraph. And Mike said it was a win-win situation. And I'm sorry, I wasn't too far past it. Hold on. 25.
What-
Is
what
that the
par-
complete streets? Yeah.
which item?
Yeah, that's the
Page
complete
22 of your
streets. A
packet.
public hearing, 8:02 PM, second paragraph, apparently I returned. And right after I returned, and I brought up that, that we can fund the work that needs to be done through Chapter 90 funding. And I had brought that up as well, as this program, Complete Streets, offers as well. So I just wanted that to be noted, that through all these years, even though Chapter 90 funding has not been for sidewalks and so on, I had brought that point up, and I would like that to be included.
We want to do it as amended?
Yeah,
Is
Yeah,
it
just
a
as
simple
amended. Yeah, just as
sentence,
amended.
Or
Yeah.
do we want to
Yeah.
hold off until?
No.
And additionally, Mrs. Krieger's last name is actually K.R. I-E-G-E-R, I believe, just as a,
Yeah.
she was a citizen who spoke. But
Does a spelling correction?
Yeah, it could be just as amended as far as I'm concerned. Just say that Jeff had brought up that he felt that the Chapter 90 funds can accomplish the same thing that the Complete Streets program. I'm paraphrasing what I said back then. But,
I'll ask Jane, do you have that? If you don't, we'll just,
He felt Chapter 90 funds can accomplish the same thing as Complete Street program.
right, that'll work.
Just add that sentence.
Yeah, just add that sentence.
and
So-
Jane's last name is K-R-I-E.
KR.
K-R-I.
so with those two changes, as amended.
Hold on, okay, I have to ask a question. Go ahead, I'll do it on the amendment.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask to make a motion. You want to make a comment?
I just need to understand the comment, because we have Chapter 90 funds, already been approved, and we're gonna have this Complete Streets program, which is in a separate pot of funding that will have access to do types of things that we're talking about here. And I believe, Mr. Yule, I'm not understanding you, but my understanding was that what you're stating is that if we didn't have the Complete Streets funds, we could still use chapter funds to complete those types of projects.
Chapter 90 funds can
But-
be used for sidewalks
Yes,
and
okay.
roadways and so on, so that,
He
and,
was just making a statement at the
Yeah.
meeting.
Because I don't want, because it sounded like we don't need the Complete Streets program. It's a
Oh, no.
different set of.
No, no.
I know it's a different program,
Okay.
that I understand.
All right.
I'm with you on that.
All right, I just want to make sure.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it is an hour-long meeting, and a lot of our comments weren't in it, but I think we were
They never
concerned
did.
in making sure that there wasn't going to be offsets or things like that based on the program. There were a lot more comments to it. I don't have an issue with adding the amendment in, but there was a lot more discussion.
Mr. Yule has asked that his statement be added to the.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
and again, just as far as the public hearing itself, there was input from the board in relation to the role that the advisory committee was going to play and
Yeah.
Right.
how much, and that's what
Yeah.
the town administrator and the planning administrator were going to go back and take a look at.
Right.
That was part of the no rush to get it adopted.
Yes, they
Right.
said
Right.
that they missed this fiscal year, there wasn't anyone getting it, so they didn't have there wasn't any deadline, impending deadline, so that they could come back with that information.
Right, are we
So do
okay?
we want to hold off and just allow for a
Probably.
little more in-depth?
Yeah.
I'd be more comfortable with
I would
that.
Yeah,
think
that,
so.
Jane?
I think it's missing a lot of the notes.
Sure.
Okay,
All right, so
we will table that.
table that one.
Appropriate corrections are made. We have an executive session on the same evening.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the April 25th, 2016 executive session minutes as written.
Second.
Second by Mr. Yule. Mr. Yule.
Yeah, on the vote tally, on the question to adjourn the regular session, it was written down it was unanimous, but yet Steve O'Leary's vote was not registered. That's all, it should say aye.
Yeah,
I think you said aye.
I think I was here. Yeah, anyway.
Well, you seconded it.
You had to have been here.
said that we-
So it's just,
You're on
that's
the
all, that's
minutes.
just that little amendment.
Yeah.
Because it says unanimous, and yet 5-0 unanimous, but there's only 4 ayes. That's all.
So, as amended, we will add Mr. O'Leary's name.
This is under the executive session minutes,
Yes.
correct? yeah.
Executive session,
Yeah.
yeah.
On the motion as amended, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. We also have an executive
Is
session.
there a question?
No.
No,
Well, we may be looking in the wrong
Right,
spot.
right, right.
I added it in, Michael. I just hand wrote
Not
it in.
included in this one. Not included in that one
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And then the other ones
What's
were
that?
unanimous.
I need a life.
This one.
No, that's good.
Are we set?
During regular session, too.
Yeah.
Do you want to modify that, or should I just sign it? with
No, as
the
amended.
handwritten?
As amended.
As amended.
Are we
Yeah,
set?
so I should be added in twice there, Kate.
Oh, I didn't
Okay.
see the other one.
Yeah. The first motion under the executive session.
Right, right, yep.
And then, then the end, as far as go back into regular session.
Okay. It's there. All right.
Now, we have an executive session on May 2nd.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the May 2nd executive session minutes as written.
Second.
Second by Mr. Yule.
You should check that.
Discussion? Can't have it anyway. All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment. Anyone in the audience here for public comment?
Rita.
Yes. Rita.
In order of the May month.
You want to come up here?
Don't be quick, what is that?
Ed,
Yep,
still
yep.
come up here.
Don't be shy, Rita.
It's for NORCAM, it's not for us. We can hear you back.
In honor of May month, the elderly and many of the pioneers that are here tonight, for the next year, could the selectmen speak louder? Everybody speak louder, because when you kids speak to each other, but it really is difficult to hear back here, so if we could bring it up a bunch of volumes, thank you.
You're going to have a sign made and put it up over
I'm
there
going
so we
to-
don't...
Speak up.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you.
Anyone else with public comment? Yes, sir.
Jim Perkins. I just wanted
Mr.
to
Perkins. Name and
endorse
address.
her proposal that we turn up the volume here, because if we're honoring the elderly, which I happen to probably be the eldest here, we should increase the volume so that we can hear better. Either that, or you can move yourselves closer to the microphones there.
Well, first of all, the microphones are not necessarily amplifying our sound in the room here.
We don't have
Specifically
sound
for the
system
cable.
here?
So I think what Rita has said is we need to speak louder.
Well, however, we need more volume so that I can hear. Thank you.
Phil is signaling me saying that there's a speaker, but I never hear any sound coming out of it.
Occasionally.
Occasionally?
Occasionally.
You gotta talk into the mic, that's why.
Yeah.
It's the only way they can hear you. Can you hear us better if we talk into the mics?
Yeah. Okay.
Really?
We'll all cuddle up to our microphones.
Oh, these
Any
things
other
work.
public comment?
Surprise, surprise.
Okay, we want to sign the inter-municipal housing agreement, RHSO. Mr. Prisco, you want to make a comment about that?
Yes, I would. During the budget sessions that we were having, in the very early stages, I met with the CPC. We talked a little bit about the Board of Selectmen's strategic plan. One of the things that is in our strategic plan is the housing issue in town. So the town planner, Daniel McKnight, took on the initiative to try to find some grant opportunities and some plans that exist out there in the Department of Housing and Community Development that could potentially help North Reading. So we put a $20,000 budget line item in there to try to help us do this research. And she was successful in getting a grant through the Department of Housing and Community Development for $15,000, which is wonderful. So we can deduct that portion from our operating budget that we were initially going to plan. But I think this is a great first step in helping us finally make some strides towards that objective. It is definitely something that's needed. I know the seniors in this community and the folks that struggle to live in this community feel that we don't give this enough attention, and they're right. They're right. But this new grant that we got will help us create a housing inventory needs plan. It will also help us look at the future goal for housing as well. And, you know, it's one thing we have in town. The town owns a lot of property. We just don't have a very good plan on how we use it, and maybe we can combine some of that with this grant money to help us do those studies. So I want to thank Daniel McKnight for all her efforts to put in to get us this grant. It's $15,000, and it's going to go to great use.
Okay, Mr. Manapelli, we have a motion to accept the grant.
Mr. Chairman, I move to sign the intermunicipal housing agreement for the Regional Housing Services Office for the period of July 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2018.
Second.
Second by Mr. Yule. Mr. O'Leary.
Just, has there been any, obviously not, interest or discussion of including more communities into the initiative, do we know? I know initially there was going to be a larger number of communities, but just Reading, Wilmington, and North Reading, and Saugus, I guess, were the only ones that finally opted in. I didn't know if there was going to be any other expansion or invitation for others to expand into it, which again would cut the administrative costs down, shared, and I think the efforts that were put forth in the first year certainly have assisted us in collecting our inventory figures, finding out when the affordable housing timelines are in relation to how long are they going to be in place, those types of things which were important. But I don't know how much more outreach has taken place for other communities where, again, there's been some grant monies granted, which is a good thing, and generally would incent other communities to join in. So I would just hope that who's ever administering the program here would try and go out and get other communities to sign on to help share in the administrative cost of operating it. Right now, we have 18% of it. Add another community, and it shrinks. The benefits are still the same, and again, I think the fruits of our labor and our investment are starting to pay off, and it's a good thing, and I fully support renewing the agreement. We just hope that they would try and expand the participation to other communities rather than just resting on our laurels with 3 other communities.
Well, that'll be on us in communicating with CPC.
I will make sure I share that with Daniel McKnight, that we would encourage the group of communities to try to rally a few other towns to join in.
Just go out and pound our chest a little bit, say we've been pretty successful, come on and join us. And again, would help defray the costs, the administrative costs of administering the programs.
In addition to the HCP, we also got a letter from the governor saying the same thing, basically. Hey, with that, we have a motion. We have a second, I believe.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. FY 2017 budget discussion. Mr. Giliberto.
Could I just have one moment to step up?
Turn this on?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Can everybody hear me?
Do we have a copy of that?
Some yes, some no.
Last meeting.
Can everybody hear me now?
No?
Great. It's not. For the selectmen, the presentation is not in the Dropbox folder this evening, but we'll go through it slide by slide. How about if I just talk like this? Is that better? Okay, perfect. All right, great. You okay? Were you good with that? So before we go into the budget hearing presentation, what we've done with the agenda is to close out the conversation that we had with the selectmen 2 weeks ago relative to balancing the FY 2017 town budget. So the first 2 slides here are dedicated to that. So just going through the listing of items here, we had some adjustments that we needed to make in a series of budgets, starting with the Community Planning Commission. So we had $40,000 that we reduced out of their operating budget and put into a warrant article. That number has now been defrayed by another $15,000. We also needed to make an adjustment to adjust the request for, for funding for, I believe it was supplies, Liz, for the Planning Commission of $1,000. And I believe there was an increase of $1,000 that had been requested, but as part of the exercise to balance, we identified this as an area to go back to the service, level service request. Excuse me. The FY 2016 request. Secondly, as we were going through reconciling the information technology personal services budget, it's a position that we had put into the fiscal year 2016 budget. We advertised, went through interviews, and were unable to identify a candidate to fill the position based on the salary in the FY 16 budget, so we've adjusted it by increasing it $10,000. Accounting, the purchase of services is identified here, and Liz, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's for the certificate program for the finance director, which was identified after the budgets were submitted in February. Elder services, miscellaneous capital. This was a reduction of $2,000 for the radio to be purchased for the new senior center van. It's been put into the motor vehicle pool budget. Youth services, purchase of supplies. A small adjustment to reflect purchase costs for FY 2017, projected costs. Stormwater purchase of services, this $45,000 was funding that was originally requested as a capital appropriation and has been transferred into the operating budget based on the feedback of the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, that this was a recurring cost that happened annually. Can everyone still hear me, by the way? Okay. Miscellaneous capital for town buildings. This is $20,000. It'll largely be in contracted services for maintenance of town buildings, again, partially based, correcting me.
That's for the downtown sewer study.
That's correct. So I'm confusing the warrant article for town buildings with this. So the board had asked last year that we look to have funding in for the study of a town center sewer district for municipal buildings only. And rather than go in with a full amount for design in fiscal year 2017, we have a smaller amount here intended to gauge the useful life of the existing septic systems at the municipal buildings in the town center. This $20,000. I'll speak to the town buildings issue, the capital investment, when we get to the warrant article review. DPW personal services. This was the contractual adjustments made by virtue of the turnover that's occurred in the department, both for the salaries and for the overtime, and it is for the general fund portion of the DPW budget only. We accounted for the water department and the water enterprise separately, as was identified at the April 14th budget hearing. And we also made an adjustment to the salary pool in the amount of $13,621 to reflect contractual obligations. The second slide, which is, I believe, where the source of most of the discussion took place, was relative to the DPW services. Before I move on, Parks and Recreation subsidy increase, which is identified here at $10,148. So we received from feedback, and there may have been some confusion during the budget hearing with the Parks and Recreation Commission relative to their subsidy. The recommendation that I had made in February was for a level amount at the FY16 subsidy that the board had approved at the end of the FY16 budget process approximately 1 year ago. Based on the feedback, it was clear that there was an expectation from the Parks and Recreation Commission that it would be a subsidy for 3 positions and not a fixed dollar amount. So over the course of today, we went back through, we met with a recreation operations manager, also went back and looked at the videotape from last year's hearing, and it was clear in the board's discussion that the desire was to fund the 3 positions that were originally requested. So that adjustment is reflected here. It should have been identified at that amount based on what I was able to find in the hearing initially. But this would increase the subsidy to, again, account for the 3 positions that the board identified at last year's budget hearing. So this was the area where there was the most discussion relative to the reduction in purchase supplies and services. I'm going to ask Liz certainly to weigh in if there's anything here that needs further elaboration or detail. But as a total reduction of $54,900, $18,000 of it, the Public Works budget for FY17 had recommended and requested an increase from $25,000 to $50,000. So we reviewed that increase with the context of the backlog that the acting Public Works Director was able to identify, and we did make a reduction, but it still reflects an increase of $7,000 over the FY 2017 budget of $25,000 to $32,000. DPW streetlights, again, this is a decrease to reflect the projections that RMLD has given us based on the cost to operate all of our streetlight system as LED streetlights, including those lights that are currently shut off but would be replaced and turned on with LED lights. It also reflects the adjustment in the rate that RMLD has projected. DPW administration, this was an adjustment that we identified to reflect actual expenditures. It was part of the budget reconciliation that we needed to do to close that $100,000 gap, but we took a look at the evaluation, took a look at the trend up to FY16 and identified that this reduction was one that could be made while still preserving the level services in the department. DPW machinery maintenance, again, this was a reduction that to reflect previous year's trends for expenditures from the machinery maintenance line item. Excuse me. And the DPW cemetery, and I'm sorry, I'm going to have to defer to the finance director to speak to the last item.
Sure, so DPW cemetery, 14,800. It is made up of two pieces. One is a repairs and maintenance line item, and the other was other charges and expenses line item. And the trends for actual expenditures, the repairs and maintenance was 11.8, and nothing was spent out of that line item for quite a few years. And the other charges and expenses was for uniforms, and that was transferred all to one division's budget. So that's what makes up the 14.8.
Can I answer any questions before we go into the general public hearing for the budget?
I have one on the, when we talked about this a few times, on the youth services, the amount that was put in for.
Education.
Yes,
So
yes.
the tuition reimbursement, finance director and I looked at the requests. We have one that's a straight tuition reimbursement request, which was the youth services, which will be moved into the human resources line item and not within the department. The second one, relative to the finance director, it's a certificate program. It's not a tuition, it's not a straight tuition reimbursement, although it could become credit eligible down the road. So we lumped it in with other continuing courses that our other department heads may take, which are within the individual departmental budgets as it is.
Right.
For FY18, we may look to better consolidate that depending upon the outcome of the discussions at the upcoming meetings of the education policy.
Just a couple of follow-ups on that. So we also talked about the need for a policy. Is that something to be left to the HR person?
No, the board should expect to receive a draft of an education or tuition reimbursement policy in June. And it was something that we also heard from the Finance Committee as well. There was a concern that I believe they had at the hearing a month or so ago. So while we have kind of an informal agreement to be expected, we'll be putting forth a formal policy to the board at a June meeting. Whether it's the June 13th meeting or not, I'm not sure, but that is our intention, so that it's in place.
And is that amount added into another amount that you have set aside for any request for reimbursement for all?
FY 2017, no. We were only
Okay.
basing it on.
Just
what
that
came
one
through-
individual?
On what came through the budget process.
So in the meantime, so as not to delay the program, are you intending on doing a specific contract or something specifically with regard to that request?
If the timelines with regard to that request necessitate it, then yes, we will. But
Okay.
it may be that that's not necessary. It just depends upon how fast we can get a policy to the
Okay.
board and the board can get comfortable with it.
All right.
Or become comfortable with it.
Thank you. Mhm.
No, just as a follow-up, though, so in relation to this specific individual, we're not, it was a substantial amount of money,
Yes.
yes. And is part of her contract to guarantee her employment here for an extended period of time?
I would say to you that we have relayed that the concerns are first and foremost performance in the class as conditions for the reimbursement, and second, tenure, moving forward with regard to the individual's time here. And I believe she's in the audience. I don't want to put her on the spot, but I believe she's indicated that she understands those concerns, is willing to abide by those concerns voluntarily. We would be looking to go forward with a policy that would apply to all employees effective July 1st, based on the board's feedback and finance committee's feedback.
And we do have a contract with her?
She is not covered by an individual employment agreement, but we could certainly draw up an agreement. that from what I understand, she's willing to voluntarily participate in.
Good idea. Right, Kate?
Right, right.
You all said, Steve? Jeff?
Yeah, the agreement just for the education part, is that what I'm understanding? Not an agreement with her employment.
Correct.
Agreement with the education.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
If not, I'll transition into the budget hearing, the public hearing portion.
Okay. I will, we'll commence with the budget informational hearing.
Thank you. So, because I think most of the people in the room here have participated in the conversation, so we try to just kind of take the high-level presentation, very similar to what we would do at the town meeting. So we have a few slides here, and then certainly are happy to answer any questions from the board, from employees, or from the public that may have those questions. So the FY17 budget goals, and I won't read through them, but I will just note that they are intended to reflect the work of the financial planning team. We've incorporated the board strategy with regard to trying to institute legacy benefit changes at the collective bargaining table, the maintenance of an affordable health plan, as well as committing to the capital improvement planning program for FY17. I won't read every one of the bullet items, but I'll move forward unless there's a question.
It might be worthwhile mentioning that working with the financial planning team and looking at a 3-year
Yes.
budget.
Thank you.
Some of the decisions that are being made this year are influenced by the fact that we're looking 3 years out.
That's correct. So at the end of last year's budget process, the chairman had asked that we, or suggested that we move to a 3-year model, and that's what we have been utilizing. And I'll speak further to that with regard to the operating budget as we move forward to the presentation. But that was something new for this budget process. That's correct, Mr. Chairman. So looking at the application of the revenue for FY17, $20,470,980 for fixed costs, $28,546,142 for school department operations, and $14,586,643 for town operations. Just going through the reduction here, it's approximately a 66%, 34% split between school department and general government operations. The FY17 revenue plan, I'll just note some of the major drivers. We obviously have the increase in the tax levy from FY16 to 17, which results in over $1.5 million. We have new growth, so this is an actual. And we did adjust the projection at $500,000. Again, we certainly hope that new growth will exceed that budget as much as possible, but that's, we believe, a reasonable projection to use for FY17. The debt exclusion, which is tied to multiple projects, including the middle and high school, is above and beyond the factors that we use for the operating budget. We benefited from an increase in state aid as projected right now, up to $1.7 million for unrestricted general government aid, and up to $6.937 million for Chapter 70 funding. And we have had conversations that this is based on an approved House budget, and we believe that it will survive the Senate budget process as well. But of course, it is subject to the Senate's activities, a conference committee to reconcile, and then the governor's actions probably at the end of June. So we'll continue to monitor that. And just another note, local receipts, again, projecting just under $400,000 or $350,000 increase from FY16 to 17. And then adjustments in other financing services, which again bring you down to the allocation I described earlier between general government operations, school department operations, and the fixed costs. So just some notes on the key revenue adjustments that we have for 17. An increase in motor vehicle excise of $100,000. Penalties and interest, $20,000. Departmental revenue, $10,000. Licenses and permits, $35,000. Receipts reserved for the premium on sale of bonds, $86,733. The OPEB trust at $230,000. And the enterprise fund indirect cost increase of $13,065. So that would be the Hillview Parks and Recreation, and the Water Enterprises.
I had a question. The 230 OPEB trust, is that on top of the 150?
I'll ask the Finance Director to respond.
The $230,000 transfer from the OPEB trust is surplus from the health insurance budget that was driven from the new retiree plan that went into effect January 1st, 2016. So as part of the warrant, we are transferring those funds into the OPEB trust fund, and then we are transferring them back out as part of the omnibus warrant article to offset the health insurance budget, which will offset the retirees' costs of health insurance.
So
it's
the
complete.
total OPEB based on the board's direction that we've been taking is 250.
Yes, this is
Will
completely
maintain.
separate. This is completely separate from the 250,000. The 250,000 is another warrant article that is part of the revenue plan
Okay.
for raise and appropriate. So that's considered an expenditure. So you will see that on a future slide as a key expenditure driver because it's increased from 125
Okay.
to 250,000.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, please, question.
Jeff?
Yeah, on the motor vehicle excise tax, you said it's an increase of $100,000. Is that over and above something?
It is, round numbers, Liz, 2.5 million, is that
I
right?
believe it's 2.4 million. Yep, it went from, so last year, we had it at 2.2 million. And then for our 3-year revenue projection, we had been carrying 2.3 million all along. And then we decided that we could increase it to 2.4. So we went up to 2.4.
Thank you.
So some of the key expenditure drivers in health insurance, the increase over FY16 budget ended up being $114,775, and I'll speak further on that in detail in the presentation. Capital improvements, an increase of $29,500. The regional school assessment, an increase of $74,599. The OPEB, which was at $125 last year, is now $250, so an increase of $125,000. County retirement assessment, an increase of over $215,000. And increases in the reserve for abatements and exemptions and retirements of $56,000 and $78,000 respectively. Just a note about health insurance. So at the very beginning, the board's well aware, we were projecting an increase of approximately 14% for FY17. We went through an evaluation of plan design changes for potential savings, and working with the Insurance Advisory Committee, we instituted an FY17 health plan design change, which resulted in savings of $324,564 from the original projection. And a note just about our current cash reserves. Right now, before we take action on the warrant before you, free cash balance is $838,754. Stabilization at over $2 million, just over $2 million. Capital Stabilization Improvement Fund, $1.1 million. Water Infrastructure Stabilization, over $500,000. Solid Waste Stabilization Fund at $70,543. Water Retained Earnings, just under $180,000. And a cell tower fund at just under $490,000. Level services budgets. So again, fixed cost $20.470980 million. General government $14,586,943. Schools $28,546,142. So I made a note earlier that I would come back to with regard to the 3-year projection, and we've gone through an exercise with regard to our projections for fiscal year 18 and beyond. The school department has similarly gone through their projections as well, and I think that it's safe to say that fiscal year 18 in particular will bring challenges for us. And we've tried to drive, as to the extent possible, our decision-making based on those projections while trying to preserve services. So I think it would be fair to say that the next 6 months in particular are going to be a crucial time for the financial planning team
as we seek to address these concerns for fiscal year 2018. It's going to take, I think, quite a bit of an effort to put us in a position where we're more comfortable for fiscal year 18's budget. But I just would note for the community that there will be challenges next year. And I think that the financial planning team takes that challenge and those concerns seriously. That's the end of the formal presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions from the board. And if not from the board, then from the public.
Questions?
Just we're
Mr.
identifying this as level services, but there have been some additional positions switched around, particularly the school department. I think we're talking about adding.
Correct. There's been adjustments in both budgets with regard to services, and in some cases, it's to continue to provide the services that we are providing, or to provide them in a more efficient way. With regard to the school department, they've gone through an adjustment with regard to their staffing and a reappropriation of redeploying of staffing to address their targeted budget number. From the town standpoint, probably the most notable thing that I would notice is we are adding a position relative to human resources. It's not necessarily going to immediately result in additional services being provided to the public, but again, as I've identified previously, it's intended to enhance and potentially make more efficient the delivery of our services.
Mr. Yule?
And if I may go back to the cell tower revenue, we have a variety of contracts that creates that revenue, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
How long are those contracts? I don't recall.
From the top of my head, I want to say
10 years?
the board is somewhere around 10-year term.
Okay, so they go out that far. Okay. So the use of cell towers, have you had any indication that the use of cell towers is beginning to dwindle, or that there's a trend that cell towers will become obsolete in use?
We did have one provider, through you, Mr. Chairman, more than a year ago, elect to cancel their agreement with the town. And at the same time that entity canceled, we had another that was in the wings coming on board. We haven't had much activity since that point in time, other than that one note. I think there was concern when that happened in the summer of 2014 or fall of 2014 that it could be a trend, but I don't think that we've seen significant variance since then. So it's tough to tell, but that's the best that I can share right now.
Okay, thank you.
Perhaps our biggest danger is legislation that works against us associated with.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I think that's what I was recalling something like that, to that effect, some legislation. I don't remember the details, but. That's it.
Anyone in the audience have any questions? Yes, Mike.
But sounds like we don't have any questions, so I just want to take the opportunity to thank all the department heads for all the time you put into it. This is probably the first year since I've been on the board that we got this far into it, and we didn't have a balanced budget until a couple weeks ago. So it was a challenge, but all your hard work is much appreciated. It really did help us get there and try to find the solutions to get balanced budget. So, but like you said, FY18 and 19 are going to be pretty challenging for us, and we're going to have to find different ways to get through it, and we're going to need everybody's assistance that's in this room. But thank you for all your efforts, though. It was much appreciated. Very good budgets this year. The summaries were so helpful. There was a lot of good, meaningful information in them. So probably the best in all the years I've been here. So thank you.
I think what Mike is saying, the entire board is in support of those comments. No other questions? Finance Committee? Had enough of this already, Abby?
I noticed the chair didn't ask if everybody was happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess,
Mr. Chairman, through you,
what?
Mr. Prisco stole my thunder, but I was going to say thank you to everyone who was
Sorry.
here and put their effort into it. Some of you going back more than 6 months at this point in time with regard to your budget. So I know it's a long process and it can be consuming in terms of the back and forth and
we come to you and ask, can we get rid of this, can we change that, can we do this? And sometimes we don't get to you in as timely a fashion as we'd like to, and we have to make a change as well, so I just want to say thank you very much for all your efforts.
And you're going to announce that they're going to start the next budget session 3 weeks from now? You know,
9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
yeah.
Get cracking.
Sure seems like that.
Yeah.
Are you done with this?
I am, yes.
What's that?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
We're using it for the warrant article.
Okay, we now,
Put that back up for my,
we're going to go through the warrant articles.
Oh, yeah.
Wait until
Yes.
everybody-
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Bob,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
We did prepare a motion to ask the board to vote on the budget based on the information that was there, so
Okay.
I would ask, it's in the Dropbox
All right.
folder, separate file, but it is in
Is it
there.
a separate?
okay. Oh, mine, this
Do you
didn't-
have it?
Yes, this didn't have the numbers on it.
Look at this.
I
Please
just
put the
shut it off,
numbers
it's
in.
gonna take a while to
Oh.
come back on, you know that.
Um,
It's gotta cool
You got the
off.
numbers?
Yeah, it's in the.
It's in the Dropbox, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to,
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend the FY 2017 operating budget in the following amounts as proposed by the town administrator. Fixed cost, $20,470,980. School, $28,546,142. Municipal, $14,586,643. For a total of $63,603,765.
Second.
second by Mr. O'Leary. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
So, Mr. Chairman, with regard to the next agenda item, voting on, discussing and voting recommendations for the June town meeting warrant, that is also in the Dropbox folder with, it's a separate file,
Okay.
PDF.
Yes, I know that.
And,
I
It'd be-
printed it out and I'm missing,
Where is it again?
I don't know
It's
what
in the
happened.
meeting folder for tonight's meeting.
Right. And I printed it out so I could mark it up.
Thank you.
All right.
And we have placed on the screen behind you a spreadsheet showing the financial articles with the number, the title, and the amount, along with the funding source for each item.
Okay.
We would have put that in the folder, except we were adjusting it up until right before the meeting.
Okay. I guess we'll go through them one at a time. Vote on the, our recommendation, which will either be to recommend, not recommend, or recommendation will be a town meeting. And while we're at it, do we want to assign who's going to present the articles like we've done in the past?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Just a kind of a point of maybe procedure. When we get to the financial articles, I've asked Liz to speak to each of them. She's got the most command on the detail of them.
Okay.
It may cause a little,
Mhm.
may cause it to go a little more efficiently.
Okay. Article 1. Budget amendment.
At this time, we do not have any FY16 budget in the warrant.
So, at this point, we may be just passing over the article?
Yes.
Okay. So, I guess this one will mark as recommendation to be made at town meeting. And I guess I'll start it off.
paper copy of this, or?
Just, yes.
If the board wants to take a brief recess, we can make paper copies for everybody. So I know sometimes,
We can make a note.
Yeah, would you do that?
Yeah, just a brief recess, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah,
I don't need one, I'm just taking it.
yeah.
Well, I just want to make sure.
I only need the
Recording
first
it
few
right,
pages.
too.
For some reason, I must have grabbed them. They hadn't finished printing.
Yeah, or you, every other page.
Just get through it.
No, I printed both sides.
Who's doing what?
Yeah.
Did you?
I just don't have the first 2 pages. Okay.
I asked, my sister's a budget director.
Are you using
They have a policy
PDF Expert?
online for the stage. For it's like.
Absolutely love
Good.
Okay,
You might be able to find it.
great.
Easy.
On the Middlesex, is it Middlesex County or Essex County?
She works with the Middlesex sheriff, but they use the states. So that
Okay.
it's the state
Okay,
one.
great.
I can have it down.
No, that's, just that reference is helpful, thank you.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
I did. Goodness. Good. So we're starting this week?
This isn't yours, is it?
No, sir. You don't have to turn your back to it.
Tell Angela, I said, that's really very good. I'll take another piece. Take another piece. No, thanks, I had a full dinner.
Bill?
So he doesn't see it.
Bob, can we do the legal bills while we wait?
I think we're in recess. Michael, while we're waiting, want to do the legal bills?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Okay, we have a motion for the March legal bills.
Sure. Let's see if I can find it.
Second.
That's not here, hold on, I'm sorry.
You're lost.
It's not here. Seriously, it isn't.
Goodness, it's there.
Oh, here we
I'll
go.
give you a copy.
Like the new code.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move to approve legal bills for March 2016 in the amount of, as follows. Copeland and Page PC General, $2,834.55. Copeland and Page PC Labor, $2,880. West, $2,722.50, for a total of $8,437.05.
Second.
Second by Mr. O'Leary, or Mr. Yule. He's got his hand up here. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
All those people that wanted to listen to us
We
left.
have a vote on the useful life of a town vehicle. Michael, you want to explain that?
Mr. Chairman, this is for borrowing that was approved in the FY16 capital budget last year to certify the useful life of a DPW dump truck, allowing the town to borrow for a period of 15 years. Requires a vote of the board in order for us to do that, and it's being requested in anticipation of long-term borrowing for that item. Is it this month or next?
It'll be June.
In the month of June.
So we're changing it from,
So it has a standard useful life of 5 years,
Mhm.
but the price of a dump truck is rather expensive, so, and we keep them for even longer than 15 years.
Mhm.
And the
I don't
capital
need any.
committee was projecting debt service for 15 years, so we needed approved to have a useful life of 15 years.
okay? So Catherine, we have a motion to,
Mr. Chairman, I move that the maximum useful life of the departmental equipment to be financed with the proceeds of the borrowings listed below, authorized by the vote of the town, passed June 1st, 2015. Article 16 is hereby determined pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7, Paragraph 9, to be as follows. Purpose dump truck, borrowing amount $176,000, maximum useful life 15 years.
Second. Second.
second by Ms. Steele.
Yeah,
Any, you had a question?
yeah, I have a
Mr.
question. And maybe you answered it before, Liz, and I apologize if I didn't quite grab it. This seemed to be different. I don't recall a motion for a piece of equipment to come to our desk separately. Have we?
Yep.
So you can either do it the night that you sign the bonds, or you can do it in advance of signing the bonds. But if this board was to say, no, we don't want to approve the useful life for 15 years, the night that we're signing the bonds, well, we'd really be in trouble. So that's why we're doing it bond.
Okay. Thank you.
That's it.
Okay, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, unanimous. Okay, we're going to go back to the town warrant. And my intent will be to, in addition to determining whether the board wants to recommend or not recommend or hold for town meeting, to also assign the articles. So, Article 1, I am going to start the meeting off and do, this will be just on, based on what we were told prior to our little recess, that this recommendation will be made at town meeting. We don't know whether there's any transfers or any money required. And just put town meeting. Article 2, fund the snow and ice deficit. Liz?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Fund the snow and ice deficit, Article 2.
There is no snow and ice deficit to be funded. The current deficit is $223,625, and that is covered within the revenue plan. We have a reserve of $250,000 in the revenue
Yes.
plan, so
Correct.
we have it covered.
I thought you said it was 200, over 250.
No,
223.
so
Oh, 223, I'm sorry.
So what was it, 223 what?
So this will be a passover? Or do we have to apply the,
I don't believe we need to do anything. This article is for anything over and above the
Over and above, right.
$250,000.
That's the way it's worded.
And what did you say it was, 223 what?
223,625 and 21 cents.
So it'll be Passover.
so this will be a passover? Mr. Yule?
It's a sure win.
Article 3, appropriate funds to capital improvement stabilization fund.
We are proposing to put 467,305 from free cash.
And some of this is going into, for the capital plan? Or,
320,000 of this is going to, as a other financing source for the operating budget, to offset the debt service
Mhm.
budget, and the remaining is to replenish for the capital plan.
okay. So it's capital and the debt service, which will allow more money to flow into, for the operating budgets.
Yes.
And that amounts to $320,000.
So we increased, originally in the revenue plan, we have been carrying $300,000 to offset the debt service budget from the debt service stabilization fund.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout the process, as you know, we increased that to 620,000. So 320 of this 467 is going to come back out and offset the debt service budget.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, we have a motion on this article.
Move to recommend.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Okay. On the motion, recommend, all in favor?
Aye.
And who would like to present this article? Mr. O'Leary?
Sure.
Article 4. Transfer funds to water stabilization fund.
We are proposing to transfer $54,787 from water retained earnings into the water infrastructure stabilization fund.
Okay. Do you have a motion to recommend?
Move to recommend.
We have a
Second.
second? Second by
Second.
Mr. Yule. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Someone want to take this?
If you want, I'll be up anyway, right?
All right, you're up there, Mr. O'Leary. Article 5, appropriate money to stabilization fund.
At this time, we are not.
This
proposing
is
a dollar.
recommendation to be made at town meeting then? Are we pretty sure?
I don't believe that there is any available funds.
Are we going to pass over? Or are we going to make a recommendation at town meeting? Town meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
You never know what you're gonna have.
yeah.
Windfall.
Okay. Jeff? Transfer funds to solid waste stabilization fund.
At this time, we are proposing $30,000 from the sanitation FY16 operating budget. That number could increase as we get closer to town meeting.
But we're going to recommend it one way or
Yes.
another.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm just letting you guys know
Yep.
that the dollar amount may increase.
So I'll entertain a
How much was
motion
that
to
again?
recommend.
Say that again, 30,000?
30,000.
Yeah, they're all up there on the screen as well. If you want to catch up just
Yeah. I'll entertain a motion to recommend Articles
Move to recommend.
6.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, second by Mr. Yule. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye. I'm up, Steph, you want?
You're going to take care of that,
Since I'm
Jeff?
up, yeah.
I did put this spreadsheet in Dropbox in the meeting packet for tonight's meeting.
Oh, that's right, it was there. And I have it. That was spreadsheet.
Nobody told
I know. I can't read that anyway.
Oh, really?
I need some glasses.
You're the youngest one in the room, besides Liz.
Budget motions, monetary articles, there it is. All right, next article is FY 2016, transfer funds to other post-employment benefit liability trust fund, OPEB.
So Article 7 is what was shown as the first item that was going to be a transfer, another financing source. So this is the article where we're taking the surplus health insurance operating budget funds and putting it into the other post-employment benefit trust fund and then transferring it out to offset the operating budget.
Mm-hmm.
So the amount is $230,000 and it's from the employee benefits health insurance FY16 operating budget.
Okay. And I'll entertain a motion to recommend.
Recommend.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Yule. Discussion? Catherine, you want to do this one?
Sure.
Okay, Article,
We want to,
What?
recommend, but we didn't vote yet.
okay, you're right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, sorry. Select town offices, Article 8, so standard.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Second by Mr. Yule. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Catherine, while you're up there, you want to do that one
Sure.
too? Hear and act on reports of the town offices and committees.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, second by Mr. Yule. All in favor?
Aye.
Want me to do that
Opposed?
one too?
That's unanimous.
You'll be on a roll.
Yeah.
Okay, Catherine, you'll do that one too?
Sure.
Okay, now, what was the intent on water? It's going to be a report at town meeting, Michael, did originally?
Yeah, I think you have to.
Yeah, I think so, too.
With the size of the warrant article.
Okay, what about economic development?
Definitely gonna be one.
All right, so there's gonna be 2 there, and then whatever.
Do we think, Mr. Chairman, through you?
Yes.
Do we think that, based on the fact that we're asking for some pretty aggressive action at town meeting, we should make the presentation right at the articles
Yeah.
relative to the NWRA, rather than separate them? Yeah, I again defer to the
idea.
board.
Well,
Yeah,
I like
that's
the
probably,
idea. I
that's,
like that idea, but I don't know, whatever the board wants to do, that's all.
what do we have for economic development in an article? We don't,
just-
so you'd have to make a report at the beginning.
Just make it, it's
Okay.
gonna be quick, 5
So we'll do the
minutes.
water with the water articles.
Yeah, we can, you can just announce that too, that, you know,
Yeah,
under this, we just announce that the
Yeah.
presentation will be made with the articles.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
are there gonna be presentations available for the public to take on the water? Or we're not gonna hand out anything?
I could say that we weren't necessarily planning to at the town meeting. It doesn't mean that we couldn't, if we felt that that was,
We certainly
Relevant.
have them on the website.
I'm not sure it's a good thing or a bad thing, that's why I'm asking. People read ahead and they're not understanding what they're reading, do we get into a challenge, I don't know. But I know,
I
in the
think-
past, I've heard that it'd be helpful if they had
Yeah.
something.
ahead of the town meeting?
No,
When
at the
when
town
they-
meeting, when you,
At the town
when you
meeting.
pick up the warrant, when you walk in.
Oh, you're talking about at the town meeting,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, okay. I
handout.
thought you were talking about Wednesday night.
No. I don't think you need anything Wednesday night, but at town meeting, I'm not so sure. I think it may be helpful if it's, whatever we're gonna present, that we have available. It doesn't have to be each slide, it could be 6 or 3 to a slide, or, 3 to a page, or 6 to a page,
Mhm.
make it, save some paper, and we can do it on both sides. Give it some thought.
Yeah, I know, I had no opposition to it,
Yeah,
for
the
sure.
one
I mean,
good thing is that screen is quite large.
Yeah.
And and usually there's plenty of room to move down front. Yes,
Yeah, I think the suggestion is a positive one, to have it, have hard copy for people who come.
all right, well, that has to be done reasonably early to get approval from the town
Correct.
clerk. So we just have to keep that in mind in terms of the schedule. Town meeting's only a couple weeks away.
Right, I
We'll
know.
get- we'll
I'm
get where
forgetting
we
about
are.
that portion there.
We don't have to have the slides approved by the town clerk as to what we're showing up front. So if the handouts are gonna be the slide,
Right.
we're good.
I would think.
Yeah, oh, that's a good
Right.
point.
So,
Yeah.
again, I still get a
Yes,
little
she
bit,
still has to
I still get a
approve it,
little
though.
antsy over that
Yeah.
approval process. I don't necessarily agree with it. But,
What?
'Cause
I don't,
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of it.
yeah, we didn't accept it.
I think it's just,
Right.
we didn't accept the policy.
we'll follow the policy, whatever.
What policy?
There
We
is.
didn't accept the policy.
No, we didn't, okay.
No, we did not.
It's
Yeah.
not our concern.
Yes,
I'll consult with the town clerk with regard
Okay.
to what she would expect to see.
all right, Article 10. Authorize the Director of Public Works to accept easements.
Move to recommend.
Second,
Do I hear a second from Mr. Yule, all
You
in
did.
favor?
aye.
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 Opposed, that's unanimous. Mr.
You want me to
haven't
do
had one
that?
yet,
Me?
so-
I know,
Oh.
we're saving the hard ones for
Oh,
you,
that's
Mike.
fine, I don't care. Do what you
All right,
want.
you're up.
You want me
That's
to
yours.
read it? Oh,
That's
that's. Prisca?
Michael.
Yeah.
Prisca?
Oh, is
Yeah.
Kate one of the,
Well, I mean, I was up.
yeah, Kate's up, so.
Authorize the treasurer to enter into competing balance agreements. Everyone understand what that is?
Nope,
You don't? Or are you kidding?
I'm kidding.
Do we hear a motion to
Move to recommend.
recommend?
Second.
Second by Mr. Yule. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, Larry,
Unanimous.
Yule.
Well, Michael, you're up. You might as well handle that one, too. Authorize Chapter 90 highway construction.
Move to recommend.
Second,
Second by Mr. Yule. All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
I'll take that one.
All right, Michael. Michael's going to do that.
Mike's on it?
Yep.
Okay, prior year's bills. Do we have any, Liz?
We have one for $25, and it will be paid out of the FY16 employee benefits operating budget.
You anticipate any others?
Not at this time, but you never know.
You never know, okay.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Mr. O'Leary made a motion to move to recommend. Mr. Yule seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Mr. Yule is going to do it.
Hope it stays at 25.
25, 15.
All right. Hearing, corridor of North Reading Middle High School. Is that school committee going to do that?
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
assume
they're the
so.
sponsor, yeah.
They should make the motion,
Yep.
right? Okay. What's our stand on this? Someone want to make a recommendation to recommend?
Sure, move to recommend.
Second.
Second by Mr. Yule. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
So one of us just go up there, because they'll ask the board, right?
And this is a school committee.
No, the school.
Yeah, we still have to make a
So we still have
recommendation.
to make a recommendation. We still have to make a
The school would read
recommendation.
it, but
I'm sorry, Mike.
Yeah, we're recommending, and we motion.
So you have to get up and
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Board of Selectmen recommends.
I'm up,
Yeah.
I'll do
I'm
that.
just saying that the school committee will read the motion.
got it.
Right. So I'm standing, I'll do that.
Article 15
Okay.
is,
Hold on, I'm sorry, Bob. You just said that the schools will read the motion, but Mr. Yule's saying he's going to read the motion.
No,
so-
no,
No,
no, no, he'll
no,
get up and
no.
give the board's
I'll-
recommendation.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll give the recommendation,
all
that's
right.
all.
Thank you.
Sorry,
all
Mike.
right, thank you, Mike.
That's what I thought.
Article 15, rescind authorization to borrow.
Article 15 is comprised of two items that we need to rescind the authorizations to borrow. One is the ambulance that was authorized at the June 2015 town meeting in the amount of $292,000. And the other is for water vehicles that were approved, I believe, at the 2012 June town meeting in the amount of $10,761.
And the reason why we're not borrowing for the ambulance or paying cash?
Correct, so the ambulance we paid for out of the ambulance receipts reserve fund.
Right.
And the water vehicles, that was the remaining balance that we did not borrow for once the vehicles were purchased.
Okay. And did we do a ban on the ambulance?
No, we did not.
We didn't even do that.
Nope.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Motion to recommend, second by Mr. Yule. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and I will do that. Just trying to keep it balanced a little bit here. Okay, appropriate free cash for bond appropriation.
This article is to reappropriate a bond appropriation in the amount of $1,169.25, which was for modulars that were approved at the December 5th, 2006 town meeting. And this article is to put the money back into this appropriation, and we then will further reappropriate the bond proceeds in a further article. The money was closed out, and you can't close out bond proceeds over $1,000. So we need to reappropriate.
Move to recommend.
Second.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? I guess I'll do that too. While I'm up. Okay. Reappropriate water bond proceeds.
This article is to reappropriate water bond proceeds that were authorized and borrowed for the Tower Hill anchor bolt repairs. The original appropriation, I believe, was for $85,000, and a study was done, and the remaining balance in the bond proceeds is $77,568, and we are reappropriating this towards a capital item which will take place in Article 21.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Second by Mr. Yule, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. That was a motion by Mr. O'Leary. Okay, I'll do that one too, and then I'll take a rest. Planning, design, and land acquisition for MWRA
Mr.
water
Mr. Chairman,
interconnection. Yes.
just a note that town council provided when they reviewed the warrant, and I'm just reading very quickly from it. If the water distribution system upgrade project was abandoned before completion, the article would require a two-thirds vote. The project was completed, only a majority vote. So this will be a two-thirds vote for this particular article because it was abandoned prior to completion.
That's Article 18?
17,
Okay.
to be clear, Article 17, the reappropriation of water bond proceeds.
Okay, so this is Article,
17.
no, 17 we've already done. This is
Yeah.
Article
It's a
18.
No,
two-thirds.
17, two-thirds.
17 will be a two-thirds vote.
Two-thirds for 17, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, Article 18. Planning, design, and land acquisition for the MWRA water interconnect, and somewhere in the vicinity of $10 million, right?
Move to recommend.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Yule.
Just to clarify, this article is not to appropriate $10 million.
No, it's 1
This
point.
article is to appropriate $1,000,000.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is the engineering piece.
It's 1 million what?
$1,125,000. There's 4 items, and they're listed there in the
Right.
dollar amount.
Yeah.
But the grand total is $1,125,000.
Question, Catherine?
I'm just trying to look, see.
Okay. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Mr. O'Leary, you want to do this?
Sure.
Just a note, again, provided by town council, so this will
Yeah.
require a two-thirds vote,
This
as
will
borrowing
require
is required.
two-thirds, so, yeah.
And Article 19 would require a simple majority.
Okay, Article 19, authorize acceptance of the water from Massachusetts Water Resource Authority, MWRA. Authorize petition to amend MWRA enabling legislation to extend into town and authorize Board of Selectmen to execute necessary agreements and documents.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Second by Mr. Yule, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Might as well stay up there, Steve.
Okay.
Operating budget.
One vote.
One vote.
One vote.
Michael, you're going to make a presentation on the operating budget?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Prisco, you make the motion?
Move to recommend.
Do we
Second.
hear a second? Second by Mr. Yule. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, Article 21 is capital expenditures. I guess we're going to let Mr. either O'Leary or Yule do that. Mr. Yule?
You?
Yeah, I'll do.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Second by Mr. Yule. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? And Liz, these are, were the sources of money, they're all where they're intended now?
Yes.
This is
yep.
all finalized, okay.
Mhm.
Article 22, fund retirement obligations.
The dollar amount for this article is $166,000, and the funding source is raise and appropriate.
Move to recommend.
Second.
Second by Mr. Yule, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? I'll take care of that. Appropriate money for special counsel legal expenses. This is the school lawsuit.
Decided to figure.
The dollar amount is $150,000, and it's from overlay.
From where?
Overlay.
Okay.
Did you say 150?
Yeah.
$150,000.
Move to recommend.
Second?
Second by Mr. Yule. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and I guess I'll do that one. Article 24, did I miss any?
Yeah, Bob's going to do that.
Fund repairs to town buildings.
The proposed dollar amount is $50,000 and the funding source is free cash.
We hear a motion.
Move to recommend.
Second?
Second by Mr. Yule. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Catherine, you want to do that?
Sure.
Article 25, transfer funds to other post-employment benefit liability trust fund.
The dollar amount is $250,000 and the funding source is raise and appropriate.
Move to recommend.
Second?
Second by Mr. Yule. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Catherine, you want to continue with that? Article 26, appropriate funds for design facilities at Arthur J. Kenny Fields.
The dollar amount is $50,000 and the funding source is free cash.
Move to recommend.
Second?
Mr. Yule seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Unanimous, yeah.
Oh, you were raising, you didn't have a
Uh,
question?
I was, no question, I'm just gonna lose that while I was volunteering.
Mr. O'Leary, take care of this?
That's fine.
Article 27, appropriate funds for planning, studies, housing, and transportation.
The dollar amount was originally $40,000, but as Selectman Prisco mentioned earlier this evening, CPC received a grant in the amount of $15,000, so for the housing production study plan. And the new dollar amount now is $25,000, and the funding source is free cash.
Free cash.
Move to recommend.
Second?
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Yule. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Mr. Prisco. Take that. Article 28, Conservation Revolving Fund, reauthorization. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
9 of them.
So we got from Article 28 through
36?
Through 36.
Move to recommend.
36.
Move to recommend.
Motion by
Second.
Mrs. Minipelli, recommend. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Who seconded that?
I did.
I just wanted,
I
because
did.
you could do it, all right.
Catherine,
Sure. You want me to do
you
those?
just volunteered to do all of
Sure.
them.
Since you were in a hurry to recommend them.
And we ought to be able to get
They're all
them
yours.
done quickly.
Hopefully, yeah, let's do it one motion.
And can we do that in one?
Yeah, well, and
Yeah,
we've done
yeah,
that.
we've
We'll
done
have
it.
one motion for that, and, you know,
Well,
if
we'll
town
be
meeting
prepared
doesn't
just
want to
in
do
case.
it, well, we'll do
Except for the
something else.
moderator.
Yeah, thank you. No, I don't mind.
Okay, Article 37, accept Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81D, Paragraph 12, use of security funds for town completion of subdivision. Now, this is a CPC article? Michael?
That's correct. The Community Planning Commission is recommending this based on their discussion with Town Council. The need was identified with regard to a particular subdivision project, but it would apply in general for any subdivision project or any bond withholding associated with a subdivision project.
Are they planning on making the presenting the article, or
They will,
I would believe so. We can confirm that, what they do.
Okay. So this would be CPC and recommendation to be made at town meeting?
Right, I would say so.
men?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean, I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it.
You're okay with it?
I'm okay with it. They need to be able to get the money
Yeah.
sooner rather than later in order to complete
Okay.
the project, so.
Make a motion.
I mean, they've run into a little
Yeah, I
snag, so.
recommend, but
What?
I would just note, I mean, to that point, I mean, right now, we have a subdivision project that was in need of emergency repairs
Mhm.
over the course of the winter. We've essentially floated it with town funds in order to make those repairs, with the understanding that we would be able to recoup those funds upon approval of this article.
Mm-hmm.
Having the article in place will make that more systematic, where we're able to actually directly go towards those funds for the purpose for which they were intended, which was for any damages that were caused.
So you moved.
yeah, I moved it, yeah. No, it's a good tool. They
I
need it.
second.
Second by Mr. Prisco. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. And let's see, I lost track of who, this is CPC, okay.
Report the recommendation.
We're recommending it, and
Article
Who's gonna do that, Mike?
38 is a citizen's petition.
you give them the recommendation from the board?
I'll give them a recommendation.
Mike, yeah, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, just
So you're
regard,
gonna do the board,
Yep.
My understanding, it might be a grand ride on this one, so I might take it.
Article,
Right?
Article 38, citizens petition, they'll be doing it. Are we taking a position on it?
Yes.
Not to recommend.
Yes,
Not
not
to
to recommend.
Understand.
Second.
I'm waiting for the motion.
I
Yeah.
moved and I recommend.
Say, I go one, yeah, I seconded, Mike seconded.
Everyone made the motion.
Yeah.
On the motion, it was made by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Prisco, for the record. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. That's not recommended.
So that,
Who's giving the recommend, or non-recommendation?
I think it should come from the chairman.
I'll do it.
I'd love to get up and see it.
Okay.
so the,
Holy cow. No one will even want to
wait,
read the damn thing.
emergency.
No, he's reading,
management, who's
I know,
reading?
that's what I'm saying.
When was that?
33, I think.
That's you. You've got 20,
Yeah, 28 to 36.
through 36, you've got them all.
We got them all.
I think I
If
did.
anybody thinks they were shortchanged, let me know. And
I got off easy.
So 37, O'Leary, Prisco.
He
Who's
gave you the
reading
hard ones.
37?
Come on.
I only got,
Oh, 37?
Yeah.
Which one's
the
that?
Community Planning Commission will review the
CPC,
motion.
Motion.
and then
good.
CPC makes the
Okay.
motion,
You're welcome.
Michael,
and Mike.
Michael, are we done with this?
board.
Yes.
So we have. God. Is that hard? Okay, back to. Next item on our agenda is town administrator evaluation, I think. So as part of our, for those listening in the audience and in the, on TV, the board annually reviews the town administrator in the month of April, prior to any potential change in the board. Sorry again. Bumping the mic. The process is, there is a review form that's handed out to each board member and the town administrator. And each board member completes the review form. The chairman of the board collects the review forms and takes the average score of each item, which results in an overall score. And why this is important is the town administrator's contract permits an additional stipend based on his performance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the summary of the review. And
I'm sorry, do we have it in here?
what?
It was emailed to you.
Do we have it in the,
No, we had it as an
no,
email.
Oh, as an email?
Yeah.
didn't distribute it, the packet. I emailed everyone a copy of the review.
It's pretty
So
consistent.
we rate the town administrator in five different categories. The first is relationship with the board. And is out of a possible 50 points, the town administrator scored 46.535. Item B is fiscal management. Out of a possible 40 points, the town administrator scored 35.89. C, out of community and public relations, out of a possible 40, the town administrator scored 37.06. D, personal administration, out of a possible 50, the town administrator scored 39.355. And lastly, under professional skills and abilities, out of a possible 50, the town administrator scored 47.34, bringing the total to 206.18. And an outstanding rating is anywhere from 186 to 230. So bottom line is, this is an excellent review. The comments that board members made were all extremely positive, and what's very interesting is that, although not necessarily from a point to point, but trends across the board from what the board rated the town administrator and the town administrator rating himself were pretty much spot on. And I'll open it up for any other comments by board members. Mr. Yule.
Yes, I mean, we all have our interactions with the TA, and obviously they've all been positive for everybody. I just have to say that working with Mr. Giliberto, with the Northeast Municipal Gas Pipeline Coalition, driving back and forth and so on, I think we probably miss those days now because we had such a good time and sharing and learning from each other, and observing his, at the meetings, he was able to put his expertise into the questions on behalf of the town. He represented the town extremely well, very professional, and in every experience along the way that I know that I've had with Mr. Giliberto. So, yeah, I think his rating is appropriate. He's done very well.
Thank you, Jeff. Mr.
Thank you.
O'Leary?
And again, breath of fresh air in relation to some of the other experiences we've had. In particular, I think the level of communication between the administration and the board, all the board members, has been enhanced significantly. I think you keep us all well informed, and no surprises at any of the meetings, for any of the members here, which is crucially important. Additionally, I've had the opportunity to work with them on several issues where there's some transitions taking place, like at Hillview. Again, ways to handle the DPW situation, contract negotiations, secondary school building committee. It's been a lot on his plate, and I'll tell you, he's got a full plate, and I'll tell you, he's handling it exceptionally well, and I'm very pleased with the performance level and appreciate very much the sacrifices that you've been making, I think, on the family front in order to meet the needs of the community, and I hope this new position that you get helps you significantly. But again, overall, well-deserved, and congratulations on your review.
Thank you.
Catherine?
Same. I just think you should have got the top score for professionalism. That's I don't know why it wasn't the full, whatever amount of points it was. And I think I
he forgot to get a haircut one week.
I was going to say it was tie selection a couple times.
Professional, great communication. You're resolve-driven, which I appreciate, because we've had some challenges this year, and I think that you tackled those head on very well, and I'm glad that my experience with the board has begun with you too, so,
Thank you.
good work.
Well, I will say it's, I hope this is the worst year you ever have with the town of North Reading, because this certainly wasn't an easy one. When you look at all the challenges that you were faced, and to come up with this level of scoring, I think you should go home very proud tonight where you ended up. It was not easy. Not everybody could have done what you did. So to me, this year really solidified that the town made the right decision, and the town administrator, and having the opportunity to work with you, and in my position as vice chair, it was really, truly a team effort. In every meeting, we worked together and collaborated on everything we did. It was no one person driving the train. You always found a way to work with everybody, and I think you should be commended for that. I agree with you on the professionalism. Honestly, we couldn't ask for more professionalism. I'm very proud and very happy that we selected you, and I hope that you feel that way when you go home. But I will say that there is still some comments in your review from areas of improvement, and one of them is, getting that additional resource to help you is you gotta make it happen, Michael. You gotta help make it happen sooner than later, because you cannot continue to work at the ops tempo you're at now and be successful. I worry about your health, your personal health, because anybody that put as many hours in you and the things that you got done, it's just absolutely amazing, and still have a family and still have a little bit of personal time to yourself. So I'm very happy with the results, and thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
And I'm the happiest of all, having participated in the selection process, been chair since he's been here, worked with Michael, met with him almost every week. Rare that we missed a week, and each time we discussed thoroughly the issues at hand, and he's not afraid to push back when he thinks something is that I'm asking for should be something done differently, and I appreciate that. I think that's very important. And what Michael says is the number of hours. It's quite clear that Michael been working to make all of this happen. It's much appreciated, and we are concerned about it. We've talked about it, and we've put in the budget to get you some help. And I'm absolutely sure you'll put that help to good work, and hopefully you'll find a way to provide yourself a little relief, to the point where we made the comment about the desk starts to fill up. We can measure that by the amount of stress and issues that, as a board, we present things, we talk about things during the day, and sometimes we lose sight that he's responsible for managing the entire town, and we only see our side of it, and he's putting in time on the other side. And the fact that we don't see all of the other side means he's doing a good job, otherwise it'd be on our laps. So we're glad to have you, Michael, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Michael?
If you could thank Mrs. Gilberto as well.
Yes.
Because we know a lot of this falls on her and your children. You to be able to be successful here, she has to be very understanding and patient. And let her know that does not go unnoticed on our part.
I will. Thank you.
Any other comments before we move on to Town Administrator's report?
Mr. Chairman, a couple of things to note with regard to the Town Administrator's report this week. The first is that we are again in a spring cleanup mode, particularly in the Department of Public Works and also within the Parks and Recreation Department. I ask the community to continue to monitor the town website for more information and updates. For those who may live on a gravel or dirt road, we did do some road grading 2 weeks ago. We'll do another round of road grading this coming Saturday, weather dependent, in order to try to address the status of those roads. We asked the public to bear with us, and I know I have gotten some calls. I'm sure members of the board have gotten some calls as well, and we did our best to try to respond to them. I want to recognize Mr. Moylan and Mr. Deming for their efforts to put together a work plan to really plow through quite a bit of roads in one day, just over a week ago. So we'll continue to push forward on that. And similarly with the street sweeping, we are taking a different approach. We're using our staff, and they are essentially dedicated all day, every day, to street sweeping, at least the highway operations are. And we are going to be bringing in a contractor to augment that in the next few days and try to advance the progress. We've set an ambitious goal of finishing before Memorial Day. We'll continue to keep the community apprised as to our progress towards that goal. Second thing that I would just note, and I'm sure that it'll come up in old and new business, is that the water and wastewater information session scheduled to take place this Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock in the distance learning lab in the high school. We'd encourage anybody who was interested in learning more about the water and wastewater initiative to attend that meeting. There'll be a Board of Selectmen meeting beforehand at 6 o'clock, jointly with the town of Reading as well, to discuss briefly and perform introductions. It's intended as a follow-up to our ongoing discussions. And Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, if I could just make a few comments in response to the board's comments a moment ago.
Before you do,
Sure.
I just wanted to bring something up while you're on the subject of DPW. I've noticed driving around town that there are a number of hydrants that have plastic coverings over them, saying out of service.
So, Mr. Chairman, this was an item that was discussed at last week's department head meeting. There are a number, and I'm going from memory, but I believe that the number is approximately 10 that are out of service. So again, Mr. Moylan, working with the fire chief and with the water superintendent, is developing a work plan in order to catch up with that backlog. We recognize if there is a hydrant location in town, it ought to be functioning. And so you can expect to see some progress made on that. They are large projects, and as you know, depending upon how well they go, they can be done in a few hours or they can take an overnight. It depends upon how bad the situation is. So we know we're in the process of backfilling positions that were vacant, some of them. I think the board should expect to see some programming in the form of overtime to try to make a dent in that in the coming weeks, but it is something that Mr. Moylan has been made aware of and is looking to address.
So the question I have is, I don't ever recall seeing, and maybe I've just missed it, that hydrants that would determine non-operable had this plastic cover put on them. And if it's been put on in the past, then the fact that I see them in a few places suggests that maybe there's more defective hydrants than we've had in the past.
I think the number.
I don't know that one way or the other. I'm just
I think that the number is
based on my observations.
Based on a number of factors, I think that the number is a bit larger than the department would like to see, and that could be part of the reason. I'm not aware of any change in the protocol for covering them, but that's not to say that one hasn't been initiated.
Steve, you've been around for a while. Do you know?
I don't recall the covers either, yeah.
I'm wondering maybe that's something new?
I can check with the water department.
Mr. Yule?
Yeah, I guess 2 DPW directors ago. No. John Hanlon.
Dave Hanlon.
Dave Hanlon. Says that's only
David
one.
Hanlon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. He had a policy, a program where he, I don't know what the right term is, but he would have a plan where fire hydrants were being replaced based on their age. And I remember this when I was first on the board, when we did the budget process. I remember Saturday morning, he explained how he has a plan where he replaces 3 a year or something. I don't remember the number, to be quite frank with you. But are you familiar with that type of plan? Do you know if that was continued?
The work plan that I'm aware of is tied to our paving plan, which is that if there's an instance where a hydrant is dated, we try to look a year in advance or a construction season in advance of the paving program and make the change. Same for water services,
Right.
from the main to the property line as well, where they are older services. But beyond that, I'm not aware of a
Yeah.
program beyond that.
Yeah, I don't think he had it tied that way, because it was a specific item, and he asked for coverage in the budget for that. It was a line item that he had.
Yeah,
I
we're
could-
looking to replace the older models with the newer models.
That's right, yeah.
I'm happy to follow up with the Water Department to provide a more detailed report on both questions.
That's it.
You,
We're on, Mike.
I interrupted you from finishing, so.
That's okay. I just wanted to respond to the board's statements. First, I appreciate the board's comments, both the positive comments as well as the criticism, which is always constructive, that is provided as well. So I certainly appreciate that. The second is, and I find this to be true as I try to go through my self-evaluation, it becomes apparent that this evaluation in many ways is an evaluation of our overall success, the board as a whole, and all of our employees. And so I just would want to note that this document, while certainly is identified as a town administrator's evaluation, it's an evaluation of all of us, the board, and all of the hardworking employees for the town of North Reading, who have been through a difficult time in the past few months, but have certainly stood through it. And then the final thing, and Mr. Prisco took the words out of my mouth, but it's not for a lot of support at home by my wife, Jen, and our boys, Noah and Max, who have been nothing but supportive over the past few years. So thank you.
Thank you, Marlo. Yeah, all set.
Yes.
Mr. Prisco? Holding the business?
Oh, old new business? Nope, just really the only thing, I just unfortunately won't be around for Memorial Day. So I just want to thank all those who have, served this country and our armed forces. It's a very important day, and I am going to miss out on that, unfortunately, but I send my wishes to them, and I'll be honored and remember them that day, even though I won't be here in town. So other than that, I don't have anything else.
Mr. Yule?
Yeah, just a bit of information with regard to the NED project, or formerly the Kinder Morgan pipeline. Apparently, there is a omnibus energy legislation that will has in it at the moment, hasn't come out of committee yet, has in there a tax, or I should say, to charge the electric ratepayers to subsidize long-term gas pipeline expansion. So that is in the omnibus.
Ominous was right.
Yeah, I guess that's true too, when you think about it. There is, and Brad Jones has put in some wording to keep us away from the electric ratepayers being, having a tax on their bill to cover the, a pipeline if and when it comes through, and I think that was a concern. I sent an email to all of you, and which I said it's kind of like putting the cart before the horse at this time, because there's no reason to, it would be one less hurdle for a startup of the pipeline to continue on. Because they haven't stopped or abandoned the project, they just
Of course, you know
suspended.
whether there's a tax or not, you and I are gonna pay for the pipeline.
Maybe so, but if we can battle this one little battle at a time, I'll stay close with it with Representative Jones on this. So I just wanted to let everybody know it's in the Joint Committee on Telecommunications, Utilities, and Energy Committee, which is headed by Thomas Golden. So people can. People of North Reading can contact Representative Jones and give him your support on this issue by for not having a tax on electric customers. So,
Okay. Anything else, Jim?
that's it.
Steve?
Just in relation to the Athletic Facilities Subcommittee, they've been meeting rather regularly recently. I don't know if the board members are fully aware or not, but there's been a significant move afoot to provide some irrigation on the softball field, the new softball field, and other facilities right there at the school project. Looking to raise a significant amount of money and has successfully been able to attract enough interest where it appears as though there's enough money to install the irrigation system. They've been working very hard with, meeting with Gilbane and in concert with PMA to see if we can get this facilitated. Tomorrow night's meeting of the Secondary School Building Committee will be considering whether or not to allow the athletic subcommittee to move forward with the project, assuring that there won't be any warranty issues, affected by the, or impacted by the proposed project. Again, it makes more sense to get it done now rather than later on. So it looks like it right now, keep your fingers crossed, it's moving forward. Gilbane has been cooperative and willing to work with us, and along with Manafort, who's the subcontractor of the general contractor, and hopefully we'll have more information after tomorrow night's meeting. So, other than that, anything else, Mr. Chairman?
Question I have is, will it impact the schedule of Gilbane finishing the project?
No,
No.
absolutely not.
So, the thing is dragging out, it'll be when, June now?
Yeah, probably, but
Yeah.
that was not unanticipated, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, they had some other
No, I didn't know
deadlines
if
established
yeah.
based upon weather and how things were progressing. It's not a surprise. So, but they've been very cooperative in trying to work with us so that, again, we can lay the pipelines under the, where the sidewalk's gonna go before the sidewalks are put in, things of that nature. And put the irrigation in. The only major thing that's gonna be impacted is, they're looking to put sod down, irrigation and sod. Therefore, Manafort wouldn't necessarily have to water the grass or the weeds for a year and guarantee it. So it's progressing rather nicely, and again, I want to commend the efforts of members of the subcommittee, in particular Marty Tilton for coordinating a lot of the efforts, along with a lot of other people, and the youth organizations in town who have stepped up financially to support the effort.
Great. Anything else, Steve? I would just like to thank my fellow board members for their support. I'd like to thank those that came out to vote for all the candidates that ran. And I'd like to thank my wife for putting up with all of this for all these years. And with that, do we need an executive session?
Yes, briefly, please, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. 5-minute recess, and then we'll proceed into executive session.
So moved.
For the purposes of, do you have them all?
Second.
What's the purposes of?
Do you want me to do an
It's-
executive
Yes,
session?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to enter into executive session for the purposes of Exemption 3, litigation strategy, Exemption 5, investigate charges of criminal misconduct or consider the filing of criminal charges, and Exemption 7, comply with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 214, Section 1B, general privacy. Such discussions in open session will have a detrimental impact on the town, and further that the Board of Selectmen will return to open session for regular session.
Second.
Second,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Gilberto.
I'm sorry, I think we may have written litigation strategy, but it should be collective bargaining strategy for number 3. I believe they're the same exemption from the open meeting law, if I'm not mistaken. But the purpose is for collective bargaining, to make it clear for the public.
Roll call vote, Mr. O'Leary.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Yule. Mrs. Manapelli.
Aye.
Mr. Prisco.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I'll take a 5-minute recess to allow